What's up, guys? Welcome back to DCA. So what we're going to do tonight is take a look at the market for Bitcoin and altcoins. And we're going to show how the market is playing out in a way that is very similar to how it's played out in the prior market cycles. So specifically, we're talking about that 2013 double peak cycle as well as the 2017-2018 cycle. And I'm going to show you how, if you are a holder of primarily altcoins, you need to understand what you're dealing with right now, what your potential risk is as we're sitting where we're at, right at around $38,000. So we're going to look at the market at the moment, and I'm going to show you in the past how these events have played out and for what reasons I suspect that events are playing out in a very similar manner to exactly what we've seen in the past. So we're going to start with Bitcoin. And what I have here is the 20-week moving average. Okay. And all the way back in November, we made a video talking about if you're looking at an actual correction, just a correction, or whether you're actually heading into a bear market. And what we said was getting below the 20-week moving average should put you on high alert to suggest that, we could be heading into a more bearish stage of the market. Now, obviously back here in May, when we went below the 20-week, we were able to get back above it for some time. And when in this case, we even went up and made a new all-time high. But typically when you get below this 20-week, it's a sign of, choppy waters ahead, essentially. So you can see back in 2019, when we got below this 20-week moving average, we needed quite a bit of time still. So we went all the way from September to January. And then essentially, again, we went below it in March. So overall, you needed about 8 months to finally get back above this 20-week once you went below it. And we saw this back in 2018 as well. When we got below the 20-week, it took a long time to get back above. In fact, in this case, you went from January 2018 all the way until here in March of 2019 without consistently getting back above. And, you didn't get back to this prior all-time high for a long time. It took you from December of 17 all the way out until November of 2020. So this is what we've seen. Getting below this 20-week typically leads to rough waters ahead. Now let's look below the 20-week. You'll notice that every time in the past when we've gone below this 20-week moving average, so again, we're looking at 2018 here, and we could even go back to 2014 for that matter. When you go below that 20-week, you typically go down to the 50-week, all right? Now, there are cases where we're able to get back above the 20-week for a very short time, like we did in 2014, okay? And like we did in 2018, again, for a very short time, but we weren't able to hold that level once we got back above. We dropped back below. And you kind of saw that again here. We got back above this 20-week once we initially went below and had a nice run up to around 69K. But ultimately, this was a very short-lived event and we weren't able to hold it. So we dropped back low and went down to the 50-week, which is what we've seen in every case. We went back down to the 50-week, bounced off of it for a short amount of time, and then went below. And that's exactly what we saw here. We went down to the 50-week, bounced off of it right in here in December, and then went below. And what happens in the past anyway, when you go down to the 50-week? Well, your next level you're looking at typically is the 100-week, okay? And this level for us right now is a place where we've actually been bouncing off of it. So we saw kind of just above this 100-week in January, and then again here in February, we sort of bounced off the 100-week, all right? But if you notice that in the past, when we've gone down to the 100, like we did in 2014, we bounced off it a couple times here, but then ultimately dropped below. In 2018, we just went right below it. So there was a massive capitulation event that just sort of took us way below the 100. And where do we go in these cases? And that is typically down to the 200-week moving average, which is currently sitting at 20K. Now, this is something we've talked about on the channel a bunch of times. So this is nothing, groundbreaking here. In fact, none of this is going to be really groundbreaking. I'm just reiterating these points based on the everything that we're seeing in the economy, the macroeconomic events that are playing out, inflation, you have the conflict with Ukraine and Russia. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. And when you have uncertainty, we become more likely to see individuals who are holding risk on assets like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You tend to see them, more likely to sort of succumb to panic events. So sort of succumb to capitulation. All right. So while we're not saying that we definitively have to play out like we have in these prior cycles, it does at least raise the possibility that you should be aware of it and understand what your potential downside risk is. All right. And recall something we've said before, Bitcoin has existed only in the setting of a bull run, essentially. So Bitcoin has been around ever since, and we could just look at this on the monthly chart just to give you a better example of what we're talking about here. So this has been the time when Bitcoin has been around, has been right during this time here, okay? So right during this time. Notice the shape of the stock market movement during this time. It's only up. We've only been going up with short corrections. So short corrections, in 2011, in 2016, a small correction in 18, the COVID correction, and now. We have never experienced anything even close to what we saw in the year 2000 or in 2007 into 2008. All right. So Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market has never experienced this. So we don't know how the asset is going to sort of respond if we did get one of these events, one of these type of events. All right. But I can tell you that anytime we have seen uncertainty in the general market, you've typically seen that sort of fall onto Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency asset class. So we've seen that come onto crypto and result in sort of turbulent times for crypto. And I can almost assure you that if we had a correction like this, something like a 55, or if you go back to the case of the year 2000, if we just look here, if you had something like a 75% correction right now, which would send, for instance, the NASDAQ from a high up at around 15.5, all the way down to something like 3,600, you would see just absolute destruction of the crypto market. Again, I'm not implying that any of this is going to happen. I'm simply letting you know that if it happens, that is what you need to at least understand is the risk that you're taking. And the reason that I'm talking about this, the reason that I come back to this stuff all the time is, quite frankly, no one else talks about it. There are very few other sources that are talking about things like this. And it's not that I want these things to happen. I assure you, I'm heavily invested in the cryptocurrency asset class. It's the fact that this is a reality, and it's a reality often not talked about. And in cryptocurrency, it's a new technology, so you have a lot of new investors, younger individuals embracing the technology, but they need to understand what the risks are. And if you haven't been around in the game for a long time, you may not, quite frankly, you may not know about these events. And that's completely understandable, right? Like back when I first started investing, I didn't know what happened back in the stock market in the 70s, for instance, or, into the 80s. So it's completely understandable to not necessarily know what has happened in the markets in the past, and to only have the perspective of what's been happening essentially since cryptocurrency has been around, going on 12 years now. And the fact is, the market has only been going up. So the thing, to cut to the chase here, I want to show you during the last market cycle, these are the top altcoins. So Ethereum, EOS, Cardano, Litecoin, IOTA, Tron, Dash, and there's some others. The others did even worse than I'm showing you here. So these are some of the better performers. And what we're looking at here is Bitcoin. This is the performance of Bitcoin starting in May of 2018. And why am I selecting May of 2018? That's because that is right before the point where Bitcoin sort of fell below its 50-week moving average and then started heading down towards its 100-week moving average. Now you'll notice we've already surpassed that point, but we are heading down closer to this 100-week moving average now. So I'm just showing you how the market reacted back at this time. And so this green and red bar, that's going to be Bitcoin. That's going to be your returns for Bitcoin. And we're looking in percentage terms. So if, when we're looking right here, if you go over negative 30%, that means Bitcoin was down 30% from right around here in May through November. Okay. Then these are your altcoins. So these are the returns of your altcoins. And you'll see that Bitcoin is down significantly less than almost every other altcoin. Now, a few of them kept up with Bitcoin for a small amount of time. A few of them kept up, like, we have Litecoin, looks like it was keeping up for a bit of time. But ultimately, when the market truly starts to recover, you see the money go into Bitcoin and you see it fleeing from these altcoins. And what happens then into this market cycle, and why do we continue to see these fall? And that's for the fact that crypto it's a burgeoning technology, and people want that next best thing. What is that new thing? So the money is not going into these older projects. It's not going into EOS and XRP and Litecoin and IOTA and Tron and Dash. The money's going into things like Solana and Matic and, a bunch of different things like that, Luna, the list goes on. And you even see things like Link. Take Link, for example. It did great for portions of this during this bear run, but remember, it was the new thing. It was it was the new coin at the time. So people wanted a piece of the action. And what's happened to Link since then? It's been getting destroyed. So the last thing I want to do, this is something you need to think about. And just look from around this time, a lot of these altcoins are down 75, 82, 82, 87. And if you go even further back, if we go further back to around here, it gets even worse. Okay. So the closer you go to, say, January, you can see a lot of these start to become down 90% and more. So the altcoins get absolutely hammered, and that only gets worse as the bear market goes on. Okay. So even with this small recovery, you saw a few of them get a small recovery, but once this recovery was over, they got hit even harder going into this next stage of the cycle than they did back here. So a lot of these altcoins are down a lot right now. I have a list here. So IOTA is down 88% from its all-time high. Tron is down 80%. XRP is down 77%. XEM is down 95%. Nano is down 91%. Bitcoin Cash is down 93%. Cardano is doing the best of the bunch. Imagine, Cardano is doing the best of the bunch, only down 74% from its all-time high. So we're seeing the same thing play out exactly like we saw last time. A few of these altcoins are keeping up with Bitcoin, but for the most part, Bitcoin is now outperforming everything in relation to its prior all-time high. Okay, so what we're saying here is you have to be careful with these altcoins, because just because you think you have a great altcoin right now doesn't mean that people are going to think it's great next market cycle, whenever that is, whenever that comes out, because there will be lots of new exciting projects. And you'll have the same things on YouTube. You'll have the Moon Boys shilling, this, that, and every other altcoin that exists, talking about, 100x, 1000x, etc. And people will buy into it just like they did this market cycle. So just for reference, let's just quickly look at some of these here. So here we're looking at IOTA. You can see this, and we're always going to look from 2017 over here to the current market. So IOTA, never even got close to its all-time high. Then here's Nano. Again, never even got close to its all-time high. And we're talking about 2017 into this market cycle. And then we have Tron here. Again, didn't get back to its prior all-time high. Okay, so none of these are getting back to their prior all-time high. XRP didn't get back to its prior all-time high. XLM did get back to its prior all-time high close, but again, this was for just a couple weeks here, 1 or 2 weeks. And if you didn't sell right at this time, if you're someone who bought at the top, you basically sat on this massive loss. So if we just measure here, and we'll go from the top down to the bottom, you were at one point were down 97%. And then just to show another, and I'm only showing the top coins here. I'm not showing the junk. Those either don't exist anymore or are down more than 99%. So these are only the top coins I'm showing you right now. So Dash down, Dash is down 95%. So the majority of the coins, so you had Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano go on to make new all-time highs. And then a few of the others barely made an all-time high or just sort of got right back to the level. But far and away, most of these did not get back to their all-time high, went down 90-some%. And, at best, if you're someone who bought near the top any of these coins, you're hoping that if you hold on to that asset, you may get back to even 4 years from now. That's not to say all of these coins are going to do that, but I can assure you, even projects that we think are great projects right now, we sit here and, we're lauding them every single day and we're talking about all the great things about these projects. My friend, they were doing that back in 2018 as well. I can assure you of that. These were amazing projects. These were, groundbreaking. We had so much, the expectations around these were just sky high. And now the majority of them are sitting down, just in an absolutely devastated state because everyone just moved on to the next thing. Because quite frankly, crypto has not yet completely established what its position is eventually going to be. We think we know what sorts of use cases it's going to have, but we're still in a nascent industry. So we just don't know yet, and we don't know how the industry is going to ultimately take shape. We're still waiting on a ton of regulation from basically all of the the most powerful economies in the world. We're still waiting to get regulatory clarity. So there's just so many things that put these altcoins, specifically Bitcoin, is extraordinarily high risk. And think about how much more stable Bitcoin is than a lot of these altcoins we're talking about. So you're talking about extraordinarily risky assets in an extraordinarily risky asset class. Okay, so here's the last thing we're going to look at. What we have over here is a list of altcoins with greater than a $500 million market cap. And we're just going to look at what percent they are down from their prior all-time high. Okay. And you'll see that obviously these stable coins, a lot of these are going to be in first place. So beyond that, you have Luna, which is holding up quite well. So it's only down 22% from its all-time high. You have Cosmos. You have some others like KuCoin. Then you have Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin is down 44.55% from its prior all-time high. Go start looking at your next coins. You have Ethereum and Binance Coin. Then you start running into things like Anchor Protocol, which makes sense since it's associated with Luna. Then you have things like Near, but notice that we're dropping down farther into the into the depths now. So we start getting into the 50%. Now you start running into things like Decentraland, which is down 60%. And once we start going lower and lower, and remember, these are only the big time coins. If you start looking at some of these obscure altcoins, many of these are down 99%. But even your top coins like Polkadot, things like MakerDAO, Engine Coin, just the list goes on and on. Cardano, you have your metaverse coins, you have Quant, Chainlink, Litecoin. Now we're talking about 75%. They are down 75% from their prior all-time high, which is what we've been talking about on this channel all along. And I know when I'm talking about it in November, people are calling me an idiot and telling me that the market is so much different right now and this isn't going to happen. And, there's not much I can do about that. I'm not an established channel yet. So, earning credibility is going to be difficult, especially when you come out slinging things like, your altcoins, your favorite altcoins that you're investing in right now are going to end up down 90% if this downtrend continues. And that's what we're seeing. Just look at these. These are coins that a lot of people have been shilling throughout this market cycle, and down 95%, down 90%. And I assure you, this is just getting started. If let me say this, if the market keeps trending down, which I do believe it will, this is just getting started. So these coins that are down 75% are going to end up down here in this pile with things that are down 90%. And if you don't think that there's a big difference between being down 75% and being down, say 90%, I've done the math out for people before, but it's orders of magnitude different. These coins, if they're down 70% right now, then you're sitting at, 30% of or $30 of your initial $100 investment. But if they go down to 90%, then that 30 goes all the way down to 10. So you're losing another, basically, you're losing another 66% or so on that investment from where you're at right now, just by it going from down 70% to down 90%. So it's not, when you do the math out, it's a devastating difference to be down, say 70% or down 90%. And so that's why something like Bitcoin, which holds its value much better through the bear market phases, is such an important asset to build your sort of foundational base upon. Because when you're doing that, if it goes down 60%, well, you're going to be positioned infinitely better than the altcoins that are down 90 or 95%. All right. So it's just something to think about, guys. It's a perspective that's not often discussed on YouTube, but I think it's the perspective you need to at least have in mind and at least be prepared for. If it doesn't play out, then great. Your piles of altcoins didn't lose you your entire investment. But if it does play out, like I suspect that there's a high probability it will, if things continue going like they're going, then holding an entire portfolio of altcoins is going to get you wrecked, and that's all there is to it. So that's it for this one, guys. If you guys like this type of content, hit like and subscribe. And until next time, as usual, see you.